I think everyone is wrong about Apple's September 15th event, and in this video I'm going to tell you why. Buckle in, by the way, guys, because this is going to be a long video. We have a new battery in the camera, we have new batteries in the lights, we've got a lot to talk about.
This is the Apple Daily.
If you want the latest Apple news, rumours and leaks, hit like, hit subscribe and ring my bell so that you don't miss a thing, and Notification Squad, we give you a shout out at the end of the video. So yesterday, pretty much the entire tech community sat looking at Twitter and looking at Apple's website and constantly refreshing the page at around about 9 AM New York time, and not a lot really happened. A couple of things did happen. The hashtag Apple event with a little blue apple at the end of it, that appeared out of nowhere. We don't really know where that was coming from, but it looks like it is a promoted one, so when you type hashtag Apple event, you get the little blue apple at the end of it. Some people decided that this is confirmation that Apple is releasing blue iPhones and blue watches this year. After writing in all caps, confirmed blue Apple iPhone, is what I gather from this weird little hashtag thing. So what I'm saying is, people don't know what confirmed means. What we did get confirmed today, a lot later than we expected to be receiving the goodness of Apple Watches and iPads, was confirmation that Apple is actually holding a digital event on September the 15th called Time Flies, and that is a clue to what is happening at this event. And everyone is wrong about what they think that clue means. Immediately that the announcement came, a lot of outlets started reporting that meant that this was the Apple iPhone event. And then Jon Prosser and Mark Gurman both reported that there wouldn't be an iPhone at the event because that's coming in October, and so everyone updated their articles. Luke Miani was halfway through recording a video and had to kind of cut in during an edit to say, no, sorry, there aren't any iPhones, forget about that. It's just going to be the iPads and the Apple Watches. However, a couple of people out there I think have got it a bit more right, including Talos of Tech, who I've been watching right from the beginning, but we'll come to that. Let's see, what are we expecting to see at this event next Tuesday from Apple Park, assuming it's going to be the same kind of event format that we got for WWDC. First of all, watches. Let's be honest, watches had better be coming, otherwise everyone's going to be completely shocked. Now, we don't know if that's going to be just the Apple Watch Series 6, which is expected to have the pulse oximeter. It's going to be the premium one. It's going to have the cellular. It's going to have all the usual stuff, all the usual gubbins that we get. They have registered that number of, I think it was 8 different models. So that's going to be your 2 finishes, probably. Oh, maybe it's not, because maybe finishes don't affect it. Just changing my mind completely on what I've been telling you in the past. I think that we are going to be getting two different types of Apple Watch. We're going to get cellular and non-cellular, so that halves the number. And then we're going to get the 2 sizes, which are different, but then I don't think the finishes actually probably count. So we're going to get the Apple Watch Series 6 and we're going to get the Apple Watch whatever it is that's cheaper. Let's assume it's called the SE for now. That makes a lot of sense. But 5 months ago, AppleInsider.com did report on the possibility that Apple is looking at a plastic or a composite case for an Apple Watch, whether that be for kids, so that parents can see where they're going, or whether it's just to be a lower cost, because essentially the ceramic will feel very, very similar to a composite Apple Watch. And if people love the ceramic enough to make it the edition, a composite shouldn't be that bad. If Apple can really drop the price of their Apple Watches by using a composite casing rather than aluminium or stainless steel or titanium, then that could be a really interesting way of getting a lower priced Apple Watch that doesn't drop as many features. So we could still see it having the pulse oximeter, we could still see it having that larger display, the 40 and 44mm options, but using a composite shell instead of a metal shell. That would be really interesting. I do assume that they would probably drop the ECG, which is a bit more of a niche kind of part of it. The pulse oximeter seems like something they would keep at the moment, especially with COVID going on. and everything else, but that is a strong possibility. So that's watches. We think watches probably safe. That's what everyone seems to think that time flies is all about. I don't. We will come to that later. AirTags. Surely we are going to get the AirTags that have been rumoured for over a year, I think, which is basically a little device that you can use to locate devices around your home or wherever you happen to be, and it will send out a signal that your iPhone can pick up using a U1 chip, especially with the logo that has been circulated for this event. That suggests augmented reality to me, and the AirTags will probably use AR as part of the way that you find the devices that you've lost with an AirTag on them. Latest rumours suggest that they are not going to be wireless charging, they're going to use just like a button cell battery. A little bit disappointing, but presumably these batteries are going to last for months and months at a time, so it shouldn't be a massive issue. AirPods Studio, that could well be something else that gets released at this event. At the moment we're obviously talking about hardware, but the AirPods Studio, the over-ear, would be a great little addition to an event like this. The schedule for the event says 2 hours, which is pretty typical for an Apple September event, although normally we would have iPhones to talk about, which is normally the biggest chunk of it. But we could well be getting the software releases, at least. We would be looking at getting iOS, iPadOS. I don't think macOS will be coming. macOS Big Sur normally comes a little bit later. It normally comes like a month later. The only possibility is because if the iPhones are delayed, maybe they're going to push out Big Sur and some Apple Silicon early. I think that's probably less likely though than the iPhones being announced at this event and shipping a little bit later than normal. Other software that will be definitely coming out will be watchOS and probably the HomePod and Apple TV version of iOS. They have their own branch which kind of covers a lot more HomeKit stuff. And speaking of HomePods, HomePod Minis have been rumoured for a little while. I don't know if it's going to be a HomePod Mini or if they're going to call it a Nano or an Air, or if they're going to come as a single or possibly as multiples. But one thing that I think would be really fascinating, which I haven't seen any rumours for, but if I get this right, surely I get some credit for that. What if your HomePod Mini, that I'm guessing would be about the size of one of these Amazon Alexa dot things, is it a dot? I can't remember what they're called. I think it's a dot. But if you've got a HomePod Mini that's about that size, why not have a little wireless charging base that it can sit on and put a small-ish battery in there so that you can have a little smart speaker that you can move around your house when you want to. You leave it on its dock at night and that's where it kind of lives. But then when you want to, let's be honest, if you want to listen to a podcast in the bath or while you're brushing your teeth or check your schedule for the day, use it as an alarm clock, all those things, then you could just pick it up, take it with you, and maybe it has a day's worth of battery, because most of the time these things are not going to be active, they're just going to be sitting there waiting for you to talk to them. That is all conjecture, by the way, that is not some kind of substantiated rumour, but I think it would be a really cool idea if no one else has come up with it. AirPower. Speaking of wireless charging, Apple's AirPower. Now, we have had definitely suggestions that Apple is looking to release a AirPower Mini and an AirPower large version. AirPower was obviously originally supposed to have the capability of charging your Apple Watch, your AirPods and your iPhone all at the same time, and you can just throw things wherever they want on the pads. Don't know if that's going to be the way that it works. Now, we have seen rumours for the iPhones coming with a ring of magnets into the back, which makes a lot of sense that would be for wireless charging and would be to help locate your iPhone on the charger. But I also came up with the idea, and I don't know if this is legit or not, that it might be for CarPlay. Now, if Apple is, as everyone expects, going to delete ports entirely rather than going to USB-C on the iPhones, going to either a smart connector or purely wireless charging, that's going to leave a lot of cars that require wired CarPlay in the lurch. I would not be surprised if Apple is including that ring in the back so that they could create essentially a CarPlay dock in your car, which could attach to your dashboard, plug into the CarPlay port, and then instead of plugging in a cable when you get into the car, you just pop your iPhone onto the CarPlay dock, and that is for the wireless ones what either lines up the smart connector to connect the cables, or it actually pairs automatically with the stereo system with the dock, and the dock acts as a wired CarPlay interface. That kind of makes sense to me. Apple might also be announcing their bundle of services apps that we've spoken about in the past too. So bringing things like iCloud storage together with Apple Music, Apple TV Plus, Apple Arcade, the new fitness that they're looking at doing, which would make a lot of sense if they were going to launch that alongside the Apple Watches, because fitness and Apple Watches go hand in hand. So that is a big possibility. We could well be seeing that at this next event. Other things we could be seeing, if they are launching the software and potentially iPads, maybe we're going to see Pro apps for iPad, maybe we're going to see Final Cut demonstrated on an iPad Pro, who knows. But iPad hardware is a difficult one, because if the iPads, especially the iPad Air that's rumoured to use the A14 processor, is supposed to be launched at this event and not just a base level iPad that potentially would have an A12 chip, then you're launching that A14 processor without an iPhone, which has never happened in the past. Now, Luke Miani has said there is a zero chance of that happening, but I think Apple is in a position, because of where the quarters fall, that they need to launch some products that they can make some money on. And if the iPhones are going to be delayed until October for shipping, let's say mid-October or mid to late October for the basic iPhones, and potentially up into November for the Pros, then Apple needs to launch products that are going to sell immediately. Now, there is a strong possibility that the iPad Air is supposed to be using the A14 chip. I personally would prefer to see the iPad Air disappear completely and be replaced by the base level iPad and the iPad Mini going with the A14, and the iPad Pros going with the A14X chip. I think that would make a lot more sense in the range and a lot more simplicity, because I'm pretty sure they used the current generation processors. I think the original iPad came out with an A4 processor, which is what powered the iPhone 4, this fella, which looks a lot like the design language in the iPhone 12 Pros and 12 that we're expecting this year. And speaking of those, time flies. Now, all of the YouTubers that I've seen talking about this have mentioned that time flies refers to Apple Watch. And that kind of makes sense, they've got the word time in them. But time flies, to me, immediately screamed time of flight sensor, which is another name for LiDAR. And LiDAR is coming on the iPhone 12 Pros. I genuinely think that Apple is going to announce the iPhones, but they are going to manage people's expectations. Potentially the pre-orders could start for iPhone 12s the following Friday, and shipping another week after that. So that takes you into October. I wouldn't be surprised if the base level iPhones have ramped up on their production a little bit quicker than expected, and it's the iPhone 12 Pros with the millimeter wave 5G. They're also testing the 120Hz refresh rate until much later than normal in the cycle, because COVID has just made everything harder for everyone. So I think we are going to have just one bumper event that has all of this stuff included in it. The iPhone 12s will be announced, they will be shipping possibly a week later than the event, later than normal. The iPhone 12 Pros, very much like the iPhone 10 when it was originally announced, will ship much later, maybe a month later, and then I think we could have a second event in October still, which refreshes us on the iPhone 12 Pros, but also goes into Apple Silicon with Big Sur's official launch, and also iPad Pros being refreshed with the A14X chips. Then they talk about the A14X going into the base level MacBook, and then they do a one more thing and we either get the 13-inch MacBook Pro with Apple Silicon with a much more powerful chip, or potentially even an iMac. Now that would be the 24-inch that we talked about in the past, which is the kind of lower end replacement for the 21.5-inch iMac, we think. Again, all of this is kind of up in the air. The 24-inch form factor is purely speculation at this point. There's nothing, I don't think, in the supply chain that has suggested this, but I do think that the iPhone 12s will come in next week's event. I think they will be announced regardless of whether they are shipping immediately or it's going to be a little bit longer than normal. Maybe it's going to be an extra week, because just because this event is in September doesn't mean that if they ship in October it's a month later. The 1st of October is like 2 weeks after the middle of September, last time I checked. So that's my take on it. Time flies, to me, that screams time of flight LiDAR sensors, and that means iPhones. I could be wrong. I probably am wrong, but I've got to put my money on the table where I think the chips are going to fall, and that is where I think the chips are going to fall. I think the iPhones are going to be announced next week. I think a lot of the outlets have pulled their punches. I think they thought it was going to happen, then went, oh no. A couple of people that know what they're talking about have changed their minds. So I'm not convinced, guys. I think iPhones are coming, and if the iPhones do come at next week's event, even if they have got a bit more of a lead time to them, even if there are supply constraints early on in the refresh cycle, that's going to make a huge difference to Apple. And even if they've just got some pre-orders coming in before the end of this quarter, financially that is going to make a huge difference to them, because at the moment the September quarter is going to end, and at the next earnings call, Tim Cook is going to have to show probably the worst looking results that they've ever had for a quarter in terms of drop in sales compared to normal, because the iPhones normally drop in this quarter, all the pre-orders and the first set of iPhones shipping. This year, they're not going to ship probably until into October, which is the next quarter financially, which means that quarter is going to be absolutely insane in comparison to normal, and this one is going to be anemic compared to normal, which will scare the markets and potentially put the entire world into recession, but we don't know that. But what do you think, guys? I just need to hear from you guys in the comments this time. Do you think the iPhone 12s are going to land next week are they going to be announced next week in the 15th of September's keynote, or are they going to wait and do them in another keynote? I think personally we're going to see them in the 15th of September and then leave the October event that doesn't even exist in the world yet. It hasn't been announced by anyone, but I think that event is where we will see Big Sur and we will see Apple Silicon in its own event, along with potentially the iPads Pro. But am I going to be right? I don't know. If you want to join my notification squad, leave a comment down in my comment section to let me know that you have subscribed and that you have rung that bell, and I will give you a shout out in the next video. And thank you so much for watching. See you tomorrow.